y'all know that gif of Birdman rubbing his hands together like this? That's how I feel. Do you wish there was a place on the internet where you could exist and just be? If that's your vibe, come hang out with me. What's up? If you don't already know me, my name is Evan, aka EAJB, and welcome to Exist and Just Be, the podcast. This is episode 5, and today's topic is how BTS ruined K-pop. Okay, so let's get into it. For a lot of people, BTS is the whole reason they even learned about South Korea, or the reason they can even point it out on a map, right? I've heard some people say BTS is music or BTS saved their life. If a group can affect people and the world in such a strong and seemingly positive way, you might be wondering why I would say that BTS ruined K-pop, or why anybody would disagree with that, right? When I say BTS ruined K-pop, I specifically mean they ruined it for longtime consumers of Korean media, the groups that came after them, and the creatives that keep the industry going. So the first thing they did, basically, they let everybody in the club. BTS became unimaginably famous. There has never been a K-pop group with as much impact and fame as BTS, especially before they went into the army. And then even now, all they fans been waiting like sleeper agents for their comeback and their recent comeback and their, all of that, right? If you don't know too much about BTS, their first real hit song among K-pop fans was Dope in 2015, 2 years after their debut. In my opinion, this was the first song that I was like, okay, maybe they're actually doing something different. Because until then, 90% of their stuff was literally just it was a minstrel show. I want a big house, big cars, and big rings. Rap Monster literally had a afro faux hawk. Anyway, Dope was the first song and music video they released where it didn't feel overtly like a minstrel show. Because I absolutely knew about BTS in 2013 and 2014, but they were just doing what they thought was cool and this is hip hop, and and I was like, I don't care. You know what I mean? It was a poor attempt. You know what I mean? Anyway, back to the main story. Dope drops in 2015. This is their first international hit among K-pop fans. So now BTS is getting more fans from people who already like K-pop, right? Then, fast forward a year later, 2016, Blood, Sweat, and Tears drops. This is their album that pushed BTS from Korea and K-pop fans here and there to the rest of the world. A lot of BTS fans first discovered them through the Blood, Sweat, and Tears album. It really pushed them into new markets, aka people who didn't already like some form of East Asian media. So think K-pop, think anime, think Chinese dramas. And from that point on, it was pretty much smooth sailing to the top. That's when they really took off in the rest of the world. You see what I'm saying? Like I said, I don't like them. I don't know all their songs. I definitely don't know all of them in order. But because I was around, the thing is 10 years ago, the amount of people that like K-pop, I would even argue that it was 20 to 30% of what it is today, if not smaller. It was nowhere near as many people who liked it, and the people who did like it, the online communities were extremely small. And because those communities were so small, it was very easy to hear about news or hear about stuff from other groups, even if you weren't a part of that fandom, or even if you weren't a fan of that group, you still heard about people talking about these things because it was a small community. People talk. I would argue 2014, 2015 was probably the last year K-pop felt like K-pop. I would argue that the new set of K-pop stuff started in 2015, the next generation of K-pop, right? Started in 2015. Every group still had their own unique identities. Even in the midst of trying to follow trends and keep up with what was popular and what was selling records, every group still sounded like a unique set of people, and there was almost each group had their own color. VIX sounded like VIX. Girls' Generation sounded like Girls' Generation. Sistar sounded like Sistar. EXO sounded like EXO, right? Miss A sounded like Miss A. I think you get my point. Just because BTS was probably the most dominant group doesn't mean that they were the only group. People learn about BTS, they're like, oh, Blood, Sweat, Tears, this is cool. They start discovering other groups. You're getting a lot of new groups, a lot of new heavy hitters. Groups are seeing a lot of success because more people are peripherally aware of K-pop because BTS put a lot of eyes on Korea. So even if they got into K-pop for BTS, they're like, oh, who is 17? Who is Monsta X, right? Who is Momoland? Who is, you know what I mean? They're slowly discovering all these different groups. And what happens is, thanks to BTS, everybody's eating. But let's fast forward a little bit to 2020. BTS releases Dynamite. It's their first full English track. It uses all the same key elements of that manufactured K-pop style. but it's got BTS's face on it and it's fully in English. BTS takes over the world again. Mind you, it's 2020. COVID just hit. Everybody is stuck at home. So now all we can do is look at our phone. So if this video is going viral, what are people gonna do? They're gonna watch it. And now, if you remember when Dynamite released, it was everywhere, online and offline. Like you couldn't escape Dynamite. It was literally the first Korean song to ever be #1 on Billboard. You see what I'm saying? It was a big song, but this big hit was almost like that. Like Blood, Sweat, Tears built the coffin. 2015 to 2019, they were slowly putting K-pop into the coffin. Dynamite, bop, 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 bop. The nails in the coffin. My first point, basically, BTS let everybody in the club, right? Awareness is not always a bad thing. But this is why I say Dynamite was the nail in the coffin. The second issue, Koreans and capitalists love to follow the leader. Koreans are already obsessed with trends and they love following whatever is popular. It's why a company that makes peanut butter can make a pop-up store and Koreans will go stand in line for 3 hours to pay $20 for a key ring or to take a picture at a photo booth that says, Skippy peanut butter on it. Dead serious, right? So like Koreans already are obsessed with trends and following whatever is popular. When you take this mindset and and you combine it with the fact that capitalism thrives on trends and things that are in like taking advantage of popular things, it's a perfect storm. You see what I'm saying? In the same vein, K-pop it's the music industry. It's this extremely manufactured, perfectly manicured music industry that tries to take all the most perfect parts of every single thing and like Frankenstein it into these pretty idol groups, right? And then what happens is they study patterns and trends and what music sounds good, and then they put a K-pop face on top, and it sells millions of records. After all these companies are seeing what BTS did, first they saw what BTS did, but like everybody still had their own color with Blood, Sweat, Tears. But 2020 is Dynamite, is COVID. They said, oh, we can go online. We can market to this international fandom because everybody's at home anyway. We can sell records by marketing to an international fandom rather than marketing to a domestic fandom. And like because what they realize is a large part of BTS's success is they went outside of Korea. A lot of their success came from the international fan base because Korea is a country with, less than 100 million people. It's 8 billion people in the world. There are so many more people outside of one country, like just strictly off numbers. If you watch the astrology episode, numbers alone will tell you what you can do, right? With the combination of all of these factors, they said, oh, let's chase that international money, specifically English-speaking countries and specifically money from like the US or the UK or these English-speaking countries that have a lot of money. Because these people will spend money to go to a concert. They'll buy an album and have it shipped across the world. So these powers that be, they started following that international money trail. Combine this with increased globalization, the second internet invention wave with Zoom and all of that, and all this technology that was innovated because of the pandemic, and BTS essentially being the representative K-pop group of Korea. BTS kind of became the army general who led the Korean cultural invasion into the West. Now, BTS is obviously not the only group involved in this cultural boom, but that's who the video is about, and I'm staying on topic. They ushered in another Hallyu, another Korean wave. It's the spread of Korean culture, or like a cultural boom where like everybody gets interested in Korean culture. If you don't already know, Hallyu, aka the Korean wave, is called the Korean wave and not the K-pop wave, because it's not just K-pop, it's Korean music, movies, culture, food, right? Like when you see, if you live in the middle of nowhere, your closest grocery store is a Dollar General, but in the big town near you, y'all have a Korean restaurant now. That's Hallyu. That's the Korean wave, right? The first wave happened in like the early 2000s. Another one was in the early 2010s. 2016 was another one. 2020 was another big one, right? With Dynamite. Now, the reason I bring up the Korean wave is because especially until like 2016, 2017, until that point, Korean media was still made primarily for a Korean audience. And you might be wondering, like, why does that matter? The first time I experienced any type of Korean culture was 2011 with a group called Infinite. They had a song called Before the Dawn. They knew they had international fans here and there, but their primary audience was still domestic. It was still Korean. But when that second Korean wave hit after BTS pushed K-pop to the world, as a non-Korean, I enjoyed getting to learn about how things happen in another part of the world. I never sought to be included or made to feel like I'm a part of this culture, right? Like I enjoyed observing what it was in its original natural form. So now, not only is everybody and their mama into K-pop and K-dramas and whatever, the media not even the same no more. I remember in 2021, they started dubbing Korean dramas like with real people on Netflix and stuff. Like they're having these English speakers dub. They translate, they got English speakers redoing the lines in English so people don't have to read subtitles. Basically, they dubbed these shows, and instead of like Sumin and Jiho, it's Sarah and John, and they'll give these people like English names, and it's like at that point you're watering down the culture for the sake of consumption, and it started leaving a bad taste in my mouth. And it didn't start until BTS got famous enough to push K-pop to the rest of the world, and people started chasing that money. Nowadays, even TV shows and movies, they're mixing more like Konglish or English, or they're having these scenes that will like take place abroad, or like they'll find a reason to use English because it'll catch more listeners, it'll catch more things. And it's like, it's marketing, it's a business, I get it. But as somebody who enjoyed the original art form, like it don't feel right. You know what I mean? I want you to find one song. I want you to find me one title track, one song by a major K-pop group today with no English. If I go back to 2007, Girls' Generation's first debut song, Into the New World, there is not one English word in the entire song. If you wanted to sing along to that, you had to learn the Korean lyrics. As somebody who's been an observer of the language and the culture for 15 years, I've seen the changes. BTS got famous not just in Korea and like in neighboring Asian countries. They got famous everywhere, right? Because until then, the most you would see is like a group they might release a Japanese album and go promote in Japan, or they might release a Japanese version of their song, or sometimes they would even sing in Chinese. Like EXO and Super Junior literally had Chinese subunits, XOK, XOM. They would record their key songs in Korean, and then XOM would go record the exact same album, exact same song, and they would go record it in Chinese and release it. So Chinese fans had their own album, because China was where the money was at that point, right? But maybe politics, relationships soured. China lost the taste for Korea. Korea lost the taste for China. Korea obtained an appetite for the Western dollar. And then they said, oh, when is the last time a K-pop group released a song in Chinese? You see what I'm saying? Like, if you think about it, like the evidence is there. BTS ruined K-pop. Another group, YG. YG had a group named Unique that was supposed to debut under them, but they didn't, like, for whatever. And Unique was a Chinese group, or like a Korean and Chinese group. They had members, it was like a mixed group, like some members were from China, and that group was supposed to debut and have a bunch of stuff, but like something fell through, I forget what. But that was only 10, 15 years ago, right? In addition to English and other songs, the way music is consumed has also changed. If you're into K-pop, you know visuals and image have always been a huge part of the industry and the culture in general. The way the industry is now, it seems like visuals and image are more important than like quality music. The music just don't sound good because they just kind of following trends and putting pretty faces on it, but it don't feel like it's a lot of substance for real. I wrote this in 2025, so it said, my script said recently, but basically, a while back, it's a Korean variety show called Boys Planet 2, where they trying to like make a group. It's slick like American Idol, but they trying to make a boy group, right? One of the judges, her name is Hyolyn. She used to be in a group called Sistar. She's arguably one of the best Korean female vocalists out there for real. Like, she can really, really sing. And a clip went viral because she rightfully pointed out that a lot of these kids out there, they couldn't sing. You need to be able to sing if you're gonna be in a group, and she was right. And it's like these labels and these companies are so greedy to just debut a bunch of pretty looking like teenagers and 20-somethings to sell records and just get hits and make money, that they don't care about the actual music for real. And I'm not saying that it's never been this way, but I feel like it's a lot worse. A joke I've told since like 2018 is that BTS could go into the studio, walk up to the mic, burp, and say, "We are Bangtan," and fart, and it's gonna get 5 million streams because they're BTS. Not because it's a good song, but it's because they're BTS. It happens in other places, but a lot of K-pop fans, they will consume media because they like that group and not because they like the actual music. I'm not saying everybody puts out garbage or bad music, but if they did put out garbage, it would still sell because of who their audience is. Okay, now for the counter argument. I'm sure it's a lot of people out there who think the industry has changed for the better, and in a lot of ways it has, right? Because if Koreans want to share their culture with the world, And they can make it accessible by providing subtitles or providing dub, whatever your opinion be on the matter. Then like that's a good thing because more people can learn about Korea and its rich history and culture through a more accessible method. Nowadays, so many music videos have subtitles instantly on release. Like you go to you on YouTube, you click the little CC button, you have subtitles in English and Chinese and Japanese and whatever, right? In 2013, if you wanted to know what the lyrics to a song were, you either had to speak Korean or you had to wait on a fan who was bilingual to translate it and upload it to the internet. Like subtitles weren't just available the second a music video released or within a couple days. The fact that the subtitles are instantly available on release means that like if a group is maybe smaller and they need more support, you don't have to go watch the lyric video with the English translation. You can just watch the main music video and provide direct support to that group that you like, which is a good thing. Another thing people who disagree with me might say is, oh, well, you're older than you were 15 years ago. And I'm like, yes, that's true. I'm not the same as I was 15 years ago. Music is not the same as it was 15 years ago. And that's how it's supposed to be. Things change as time change. People change. Like, I'm still changing, and I understand that. But in spite of being older, there are still so many, like, high-quality songs from my, I guess what you would call, like, my golden era that still hold up to this day. Because even in following the trends of that time, the quality was still there. People were still making music that sounded very unique to one group of people or one thing, right? Like people still had their own unique identities. And it was made when they weren't trying to explicitly market to English speakers. American, I'm under 30. I'm an English speaker. I have an interest in Korea and Korean culture. And I don't mind being part of a demographic because you can't control being part of a demographic. But at the same time, I don't like feeling pandered to, especially when it's something that shouldn't be created with my consumption in mind as an outsider. It's not my language. It's not my culture. So the fact that you're trying to take this thing that's yours and package it in a way that's like easy for me to consume and spend money, I don't like it. You see, I don't like it. Another kind of argument for myself is that as I've grown up, unlike some people, I actually got blacker. And that's not to say that I wasn't black before, but as I've grown up, the rosé tteokbokki colored glasses have fallen off. I look at it with a different lens. The more I learn about black music history, the harder it is for a Korean group to impress me. Like, why would I listen to Good Evening by Shiny when Cupid by 112 is the exact same chorus and they did it 30 years ago? And don't get me wrong, I love Shiny. They have a lot of great original music too, but why would I listen to the knockoff when I can just listen to the original? Especially if they both free anyway. You see what I'm saying? I appreciate good music wherever it comes from. But as somebody who grew up listening to a lot of the music that these artists just rip off or just steal outright, I'm a lot pickier about who I listen to than I was back then. And maybe that's another part of what influenced all of this. I started this whole thing by saying BTS ruined K-pop. But as someone whose Korean music library spans 1971 to present day, I can see how things have changed. I just wanted to talk about the enormous role that BTS has played in that from my perspective. All right, before I go, I want to emphasize that BTS is an immensely successful group that's changed the way that the world sees Korea, and it's changed how Korea shows up for the world. They've significantly impacted something that I've been passionate about for like 15 years. And I've never really known how to put what I've seen happen into words until I sat down and wrote out the script for this episode. I should make an outro. This will be my outro. If you enjoy what I'm talking about, subscribe if you're on YouTube, or give the podcast a like or a follow if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Spotify told me, tell people to like or follow. They say it helps, so I'm telling y'all because they say it helps your podcast. But yeah, that's everything I got. This has been Existing Just Be the Podcast, episode 5, BTS Ruined K-Pop, and I'll see y'all next week.